has taken over. Let's go. It's Ferrall. Coast to coast. Steaks, chicks, stacks. You and I are going to make a lot of money. It's Ferrall, coast to coast.
All right, welcome back in. We are off and running another hour here, final hour, in fact, of Coast to Coast on the SportsGrid Network. Joe Ranieri in for Scotty Ferrall, joined by Joe Lisi in for one Mike Carver here today. And got a big night of sports across the landscape here. College basketball. Love some of these games coming up here tonight, JoJo, as we get ready, of course, also for the NBA to return tomorrow, making that final push for before the playoffs begin. So a lot going on there. We also have some headlines to go over, including an update from just the senseless, tragic shooting at the Kansas City Chiefs parade a couple of days ago, as authorities have told us now that 2 adults have been charged with the murder and death of a very popular Kansas City DJ, Lisa Lopez Galvin. She was unfortunately killed in just a senseless tragedy there. And it looks like there are 2 adults that have now been charged. That's in addition to 2 of the underage juveniles that have already been arrested here that we learned at a couple of days ago. Police are telling us now that the confrontation started over 2 groups that had no idea who each other were, didn't know them, but one of them looked at them funny. And JoJo, it's a story as old as time, unfortunately. And even in this day and age, unfortunately, somebody ended up losing their lives. A number of people were injured, and lives will never be the same. And we did hear, of course, that the family of the DJ there, Lisa Lopez Galvin, had said now she will be laid to rest in a Harrison Butker jersey that was sent to the family from the Kansas City Chiefs. Just all the way around, JoJo, just an absolutely awful story, and what should have been a tremendous celebration for the Chiefs and their fans turns deadly, and for no reason, because somebody looked at somebody the wrong way.
Yeah, it's amazing, Joe. We see it each and every week, each and every month now. Our hearts and prayers go out to all the victims. And you're right, they went there to just watch the Kansas City Chiefs celebrate their Super Bowl championship. And at the end of the day, we have people that were shot, lives lost. And again, it's unfortunate, but it's not going to change. And again, we have to try and just, pray, and hopefully, people understand that, just embrace the moment. There is nothing that is worth taking someone else's life, and lives are ruined now, and it's unfortunate.
Yeah, it's just a terrible, tragic story there, but thoughts and prayers certainly with all those affected there. We do also have some headlines in the NFL, and we'll start with, how about Antonio Pierce saying the Raiders have now got the Mahomes rules in effect against the Chiefs. This was the old same thing along the lines of like the Jordan rules. Remember those? We used to have to hear about them where everything changes around. Well, we could also say that Tom Brady had his rules, but isn't that just that's the way it is with the truly greats who affect the game, right? Steph Curry had his rules. There is, when you're that good and you transfer the game, guess what? The rules work around you, don't they?
Yeah, and you have 3 Super Bowls to go along with it. You're absolutely right. But Antonio Pierce also came out and said prior to that as well, they have the blueprint to potentially beat the Kansas City Chiefs. They did it in terms of the last regular season game in Arrowhead. They beat them up. They picked them off. They turned them over. So, they're a team that understands the rules, but they stepped up and they split the series. So we'll see how it plays out this year. But Antonio Pierce definitely did a great job, and now is the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. And you know what? With a full season under their belt, who knows? Maybe they could be a dark horse to potentially steal the AFC West.
That would be impressive. I'll tell you that, Antonio Pierce, but a little less talking, a little more winning. That'll be great. All right, let's not talk about the Mahomes rules here. Let's just go out and win the game, and Mahomes rules be damned there. Also hearing, how about Justin Fields, who apparently unfollowed the Bears this week, and he says the reason he did it was because he needed a break from social media. But he did also say that he wants to stay with the Bears, but he understands it's a business. And, of course, the Bears, I think, have the first 28 picks in this year's draft. Do they or something along those lines, JoJo?
Yeah, it's amazing. I have no problem, unfortunately, with Justin Fields unfollowing the Bears because I don't think they did him right. I really don't, Joe. They drafted all defensive players last year, didn't give him any wide receiver help outside of DJ Moore. They drafted Velus Jones. That was a pedestrian wide receiver, 25 years old, out of the University of Tennessee. And you look at C.J. Stroud, what he was able to do. I would follow Kyle Pitts, Drake London, and Bijan Robinson as well. We know that Justin Fields played and started his career at Georgia with Kirby Smart. He has ties to Atlanta. If they want to deal him, why not? It would be a great fit, I believe, for the Atlanta Falcons and new head coach Raheem Morris.
I would just say, Bears, be very careful. The devil you know is always better than the devil you don't. And whatever it is you think you might be cooking up at the quarterback spot there in this year's draft, there are no guarantees. I'm just saying, I don't know what you think you're going to get, but, you know, I think we're all pretty confident in what Justin Fields can bring to the table. And how many offensive coordinators did he have to go through coming up there?
How about this? How about this too, Joe? Let's say they do draft Caleb Williams. You feel confident in that head coach, Matty Eberflus, coaching up Caleb Williams to like an all-pro? I mean, he's going to run him into the ground. So you're going to get exactly what you get out of Caleb Williams from what you have with Justin Fields. The problem isn't the quarterback. The problem is the coaching staff and the head coach that you kept.
Yep. Amen to that. But stay tuned, though. Don't forget, I believe it was at the Phoenix, I believe, right? Didn't Arizona and the Cardinals, they had a quarterback that unfollowed the team, and then he got $200-some-odd million there. So maybe there is a path. That's all I'm saying is what Fields may be doing. Also, still awaiting, but the 49ers say they can announce a new DC defensive coordinator hire soon. I still think they did Wilkes dirty, man. Something else is going on behind the scenes there, JoJo. You basically fired him at a point where he can't get a job. What are you doing?
Yeah, unbelievable. And he was definitely done rotten by Carolina and now San Francisco because he coached well enough to keep that job, and they gave it to Reich, and now he's out of a job here, and I don't think he did that bad of a job. It's Shanahan that's trying to take the heat off of what he did in terms of the Super Bowl. Gutless.
Yeah. Yep, totally gutless, but that usually means a sign of the heat turning up there for Shanahan. All right, we got much more coming up here, coast to coast on the Grid continues.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Like the Minnesota Wild were down by 2 goals today. They were down by 3 goals, actually, today at one point. And they came back and won. Like teams like, the Edmonton Oilers and the Coyote game went back and forth. The NHL really, you could argue, really is the best sport for in-game betting, where you can pull the trigger on both teams.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Johnny's a 19-point lead late in the opening half, only to squander that lead. Hall ball under Shaheen Holloway coming all the way back.
All these guards start jacking up shots, and then Cioriano doesn't get the ball. Hey, Rick, how about stop throwing your kids under the bus and get your big man the ball, your best player, play inside out like you were doing earlier in the game, and you probably would have won.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The Early Line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Ferrall Coast to Coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from 3 on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not 1, but 2 coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
This
Late
sort of
Night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in here, coast to coast on the Sports Grid Network on this Wednesday. Joe Ranieri in for the one and only Scotty Ferrall, who I hope is out on the golf course somewhere. But when it comes to being out on the golf course, I don't mean to throw him under the bus like that, but I hope he's out at the golf course. Speaking of golf course, nobody knows it better than Keith Stewart stepping in here, who has spent a little time living out of a suitcase here over the last couple of weeks out west as the PGA Tour season is off and running, and they're heading a little south of the border this week, and then they'll be in my neck of the woods there, Keith, in the Florida swing here. But tell me some of the observations, some of your takeaways from hanging out with the tour and the players out west here for the first month of the season.
Joe, great to be on with you this afternoon. I guess the easiest observation is we don't need to go to California or Arizona in February. We don't need to go anywhere in February. I mean, let's go Hawaii maybe in late February and then go straight to where you are down there in Florida. But as far as the golf goes, if you and I went back and did a golf preview show to start the year, we looked at the top 10 guys in the official world ranking. Do you think that Wyndham Clark would be the only guy 7 weeks in that would have a win at this point? I've seen 2 signature events, one at Pebble, one at Riviera, and the big boys, they've all got issues. And we're about 50 days from Magnolia Lane. So my biggest takeaway from 3 weeks straight on the road is that, 1, the waste management, it lives up to its billing. And number 2 is that these guys at the top of the world ranking, they need to get their act together. They all have got one little issue that they need to get fixed. The easiest one to point out is Scotty with the putting. But all of them have some sort of little peccadillo that's not helping them get the job done. And as a result, we see these long shots winning, and we got a whole week of long shots at the Mexico Open.
Yeah, no, we do. And I'm glad you brought up Scotty and the putting, because I'm worried. To be top 3 tee to green and then be dead last in putting in this tournament. But this is not just a last month. Like, this is carrying over from last season. At some point, and you know this, Keith, You can't just snap your fingers. It starts to weigh on you. And just the body language of him on some of those missed putts here this past week at Riviera, I'm going, he's got to figure this out sooner rather than later because it will begin affecting the rest of his game.
Oh, you can already tell it's creeping into his psyche. And if I was his wife, Meredith, I would remove all the sharp objects from his house. I mean, I'm not kidding you. He's missing putts that, I mean, he hits it closer from 200 yards than he is from 10 feet. I mean, he's missing the hole. It goes back to Einstein. What's the definition of insanity? Keep doing the same thing and get a different result? Well, here's the problem. He's like, we talk about this in coaching all the time. He's on the bridge. So he wasn't getting it done last year. He goes and sees a new coach around the Ryder Cup. He changes everything, Joe. Okay, so now he's at the top of the bridge of change, and it's still not working. So do you go back to where you were, or do you keep changing? At some point at the top of the bridge, you don't know where you are, and we saw it at Riv, and the emotion is starting to come, out. Yep. And I tell you, it'll be interesting. The number one player in the world hasn't won since last year at the Players, and I don't see it coming anytime soon.
Also, two words, David Duvall. I'll leave it at that. Let's talk about, he too, number one player in the world, and then could not hit the hole putting and then lost his entire game. It happens that quickly with these guys, unfortunately. But not a lot of big names this week at the Mexico Open, you said there, but there's got to be probably maybe a pretty good number or two that we can expect to rally around here. Who are some of the guys you're looking at?
Well, I'll tell you what, the top of the board, the chalk, they haven't done anything for 7 straight weeks. So for me, I mean, Hideki won on Sunday. He was 120-1 on Sunday morning. So, I mean, the triple-digit streak carries on. So for me, I'm looking a little further down the board. In the middle tier, I like Taylor Pendrith. He's a bomber. We've already heard reports from down there. This tournament used to be in April. It's now moved into February. The golf course is playing even longer and softer than it did a year ago. So we need long players. This thing is over 7,500 yards. But Taylor Pendrith is also first in bogey avoidance. So it tells us he's got a little bit of finesse to go with all of that power off the tee. And this guy, he's been great lately. 5 of his last 7 starts have been top 15 results. I guess maybe because he's from Canada. I don't know, but nobody's talking about this guy. Further down the board, Mav McNeely. I watched him. I walked with him in Phoenix. The approach game has always been kind of the area that's been a little weak for him. He's long off the tee. He's an incredible putter. But you know what? He popped with his iron game in Phoenix. He finishes 6th. I think he's a guy that's trending right now in these full field events. He's also super talented. And then another guy I like is Sam Stevens. And everyone's like, Keith, who's Sam Stevens? I don't know. He played college golf at Oklahoma State. His teammates, Austin Eckroat, Matt Wolf, Victor Hovland. You heard of any of these guys? I mean, he played with them in college. He's super long and accurate, and he's definitely one of those guys. He came in 3rd last year at Corrales in Punta Cana, and it's the same kind of grass, very long golf course. Stevens started the week at 90-1. Some boards dab him down in the 50s right now. So he's a hot name. Get the highest number you can.
So if I'm not mistaken, right, it's a bangers course, right? So very, guys that are long off the tee. What is the class of this field? Is it Finau at the top and everybody else kind of as you look at this, especially the way the course sets up for people's games?
Well, the chalk that you're going to hear about, they're calling it the Tony Finau Open. He's about 7-1. In 2 trips here, he's finished 2nd and 1st. But Tony, since last year in Mexico when he won, he hasn't gained with the putter. You want to talk about Scotty being bad with the putter. Tony's just as bad. He's lost strokes putting in 10 of his 13 events since Mexico. Another name I like at the top is Nikolai Højgaard. European player, played on the Ryder Cup, uber long. He's been really good since the Ryder Cup. I love him for a top 10. I mean, Højgaard, since the Ryder Cup, he's had 4 top 10s and a win. Whereas guys like Finau, what's he even done since last Mexico? So, at the top of the board, another guy, Emiliano Grillo, I've got him for a top 20. He's putting good lately, good ball striker. There's Pendy again. I like him in the top 20. If you want to go a little bit deeper, Johnny Vegas, top 40. He's coming back for some injuries. And that's why you can get him at positive money at a top 40. And we already talked about Stevens. You know, the boards, they can only put so many guys with positive numbers in there. And, you know, when it comes to top 20s and top 10s, you can get him with positive. I think he's my best bet of the week. For him to finish top 40 in this field on Paspalum there, the grass that they're using down there at Vidanta Vallarta, I love Stevens there.
Like the opportunity here this weekend. Let me ask you, Keith, before we get you out of here. Willie Z back? Won't be long before he's back in the winner's circle, you think, after what you just saw this past week?
Well, I tell you, I started this way, and let's end this way. Of the top 10 in the world, none of them are impressing me, but Willie Z is. Willie Z seems to have his game back, and as a ball striker, going to some of these golf courses we have coming up soon, like the Players, like Augusta, you got to love where Willie Z's got his game back. And with that broomstick, he's a better putter than half these guys. So for me, you know, I mean, you could start the Owen Wilson quotes. Wow. Willie Z, you got to love him. I mean, I tell you, I'm so happy to see him back, too, because a young guy to have that kind of back surgery and get it back, he's a guy we could all rally around. I appreciate you bringing up Willie Z. I'm on him. I love it.
I'm with you. And you know what? He didn't defect over to Live. He hung out there, and he's back now, so he won't have to beat the Rorys and the Roms of the world anymore in tournaments. It's all him here now. So looking forward to that. Looking forward to the Mexico Open. Keith Stewart, appreciate the knowledge and the insight, my man. Coast to Coast continues next year on the Grid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Like the Minnesota Wild were down by 2 goals today. They were down by 3 goals, actually, today at one point. And they came back and won. Like teams like, you know, the Edmonton Oilers and the Coyote game went back and forth. The NHL really, you could argue, really is the best sport for in-game betting, where you can pull the trigger on both teams.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Johnny's a 19-point lead late in the opening half, only to squander that lead. Hall ball under Shaheen Holloway, coming all the way back.
All these guards start jacking up shots, and then Fiorio doesn't get the ball. Hey, Rick, how about stop throwing your kids under the bus and get your big man the ball, your best player, play inside out like you were doing earlier in the game, and you probably would have won.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The Early Line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Ferrall Coast to Coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game Time Decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from 3 on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not 1, but 2 coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
This
Late
sort of
Night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on Sports Grid.
All right, welcome back in here now as Coast to Coast continues on the Sports Grid Network. Joe Ranieri alongside Joe Lisi here, and we have got ourselves some NBA action coming back, but we got some things to tell you, too, some storylines there, and, of course, Kevin Durant and his 23 burner accounts making headlines again, but I do want to ask you, Jojo, what did you think of the All-Star game on Sunday? Because we got the ratings in, and we saw just how terrible it truly is here. What did you think of that debacle on Sunday?
I didn't watch a stitch. I watched all the highlights, Joe, but I was shocked that Dame Lillard took over the game because he had 39 points. He was hitting half-court shots, and he can't even hit the back of a rim during the regular season. It's amazing how he steps up, and it's just incredible. Wins the three-point contest, puts up 39 for the MVP. They play no defense. What was the total in that game? 363 and a half?
Mm-hmm.
That was the total?
Yep.
Come on. I don't mind that because it's the problem that I have, Joe, is like the dunk contest and all these skills contests that are absolutely pathetic. Half the guys could care less whether they're in it or not. That is the problem, too.
Nope. Second lowest rated All-Star game for the NBA since last year. And Adam Silver went out of his way to tell us how, listen, we talked to everyone, and nobody liked what we saw last year, so we're going to make it more competitive. Make it more competitive? They had 194 points in the first half combined. There's nothing competitive about a game that almost hits 400 points. And if you're watching Larry Bird's face, Reggie Miller, I'm telling you right now, Joe, here's what I think. This will never change as long as everyone loves everybody and they're all buddies and they're all high-fiving. Right. Where's Charles Oakley? Right? Give me one of where are the bad boys in this that will rather cut you down than let you take some sort of BS shot from half court and act as if it's part of the game?
That is pathetic. And you're right. Joe, there are no more rivalries. Nothing matters anymore. It used to be back in the day, mid-'90s. I was living in New York. You got Anthony Mason and Charles Oakley for the New York Knicks. Yes. Pat Riley, the Heat with Alonzo Mourning. Those games are no longer in existence, not just in the NBA. It's the same thing in the NFL. There are certain rivalries, maybe, but all these guys at the end of the day, they're buddies. They're making, boatloads of money, and that's the only thing that matters is the brand and how much they can make, not whether the team wins or loses. I mean, I grew up with the day of, you remember, Dennis Rodman, Lambeer, not with their respective teams. I'm talking the Pistons, old school, where you got black and blue, a little body English under the boards. That's no longer the case in the NBA anymore. Nobody cares. They don't care.
Nope, they don't care. And because you're watching that and you couldn't help but to think, like, Kobe rolling over right now. The idea that Kobe Bryant would have let anybody drop that kind of that kind of killer instinct, and I don't really care what you're wearing that uniform. You're not wearing my uniform. You're the enemy, and we don't have that. Because even, listen, did they go out like it was the finals? No, but there was a level of respect for the game back then and each other where you weren't going to make it a beer league softball game, because that's what I felt like I was watching, was a beer league softball game. So if that's the case, throw up an obstacle course and let's just, hey, you go up into section 300 and shoot from 3 there, and let's see how many points you get. Like, come on, man, what are we doing?
It's crazy. It's amazing. There's no defense. Then nobody cares, and it's just about they don't want to get hurt. And I understand they don't want to get hurt, but at the end of the day, play the game. I mean, nobody.
I'm lucky I don't get up out of this chair and hurt myself. You got to be. I mean, what are you doing? Get hurt? You're the world's greatest athletes. Like, how are you getting hurt by playing the game? Stop it! Unbelievable here. And by the way, Kevin Durant. Nobody more fun than when Kevin Durant has a bug up his butt and he starts activating the 23 different burner accounts he has. It looks like Charles Barkley made the comment that he's not buying KD a leader. And boy, oh boy, I guess Durant and Frank Vogel didn't appreciate Barkley's comments. But I would say Barkley, there's obviously you want clicks and you want to create some buzz. But is he that far off? I mean, is KD some sort of give me a break here, Joe.
Let me ask you this, Joe. I think it's more Booker's team than it is Durant's.
I mean,
agree. Booker ultimately decides whether Booker's the guy that is the ball hog number one, and then when he decides that he doesn't want to shoot, then Durant takes over. It's not that Kevin Durant is the face of that franchise. He was supposed to be, and Booker was supposed to learn from Durant. But ever since Durant got there, it's been Booker that's been the alpha in terms of the team, and Durant just follows along. How many games do we see Kevin Durant start games 1 of 12 from the field, and then he's going to get hot after Booker already has 35 in the first half? It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, and also it's funny because KD says that he doesn't want to be called a leader, but also doesn't want people saying he's not one. So it's you're very confused there, Durant, but tell me where you've been the leader then, because you certainly weren't the leader at Golden State. You joined them. It's still been Steph Curry as the leader for the thing. You came to Booker's team, to your point, and, what happened in Brooklyn? Were you a leader in Brooklyn or were you not? Because now we're 14 coaches later. This is, I've always said this, man, that's why I love Pat Riley here in Miami, because Pat Riley was still to the day the only guy that told LeBron, you don't get to decide. You play basketball. I'll decide what happens in and around here, because when the inmates start running the asylum, then this is what you get. I'm a leader. I'm not a leader. I'm a leader. Don't call me no leader. Like, what are we doing here, Durant? Like, lead by example. And the example we have seen,
And that's why they bowed out of the West last year, right? They don't have mental resolve. They have no mental resolve. They got beat up last year in that series. Didn't show up. They got blown out. And that's the biggest thing, too. Great teams win on the road. And Durant, if he wants to be the leader of that team, he'll carry that team on his shoulders, and somehow, some way, they'll win the West. But they're not built for it. I'm sorry. Can't back into Phoenix of being a Western contender.
No, you had to have, Harden. You had to have Nash. Like, you had to have all these things. And eventually, it's very hard to be a leader, JoJo, when you take no personal responsibility for everything. The fact that you got 20 burner accounts alone tells us everything we need to know about your leadership ability. So say what you want about Barkley. I mean, he is being paid, of course, to create buzz. But at the same time, if I was picking a team today and I needed 2 captains, is KD, of the list of guys, is he up there for you?
No, he's not. I mean, I think I would take Joker in terms of one. And I think the other, I mean, probably
Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler is a leader to me.
Yeah. You know why? No, but that's it. He doesn't care about stats, Jimmy, as much as he cares about team goals. And that's why they were able to win the East. So come playoff time, Jimmy kicks it up a notch. I totally agree with you. That's the guy I want on my team. And don't count them out. I know they've been a little up and down, but come now, late March, they're going to make a run, I believe.
Well, let's see here. The odds to win the East, I believe, are I can't listen. I've seen this happen so far out, but it's very difficult ever to rule out Miami because it's always that next man up mentality. But it does feel like it's the Celtics to lose, doesn't it?
It does, and until you start backing Tatum in a big spot too. That's another problem, right? He's hot or cold as well. I mean, I love Tatum. I love his athletic ability. On paper, it should be Boston and everybody else, but we've seen them struggle in terms of certain situations. But they do have it, what it takes. I think Boston could be there. They just need the right type of matchup. But again, when you see the Knicks at 7-1, and I know Brunson's leading that team right now, and they're playing well, I still at 18-1. You want to give me Rozier and Butler? And then every now and then a hot and cold Tyler Hero, I'll take that any day of the week.
Also kind of hard for me not to get behind a healthy Kawhi Leonard. If he stays healthy, him, PG, Clippers are going to be tough. It just feels like them in Denver, and that's it.
It does, right? I want to buy into the Pelicans. I like the Kings just because they're able to run, and if they get the right type of matchup at 30 to run, DeAndre Fox and that team could be lethal, but they don't play any defense. That's a problem.
Yeah, no, at some point, you got to have a little depth. You got to have a little injury luck, which Denver had a lot of last year. Miami eventually ran out of luck on the injury front. So a lot of things got to fall your way here if you're going to make a true run at this. We'll have more on that. Plus, we'll talk a little MLB when Coast to Coast continues here on the Grid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Like the Minnesota Wild were down by 2 goals today. They were down by 3 goals, actually, today at one point. And they came back and won. Like teams like, the Edmonton Oilers and the Coyote game went back and forth. The NHL really, you could argue, really is the best sport for in-game betting where you can pull the trigger on both teams.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Johnny's a 19-point lead late in the opening half, only to squander that lead. Hall ball under Shaheen Holloway coming all the way back.
All these guards start jacking up shots, and then Chiorio doesn't get the ball. Hey, Rick, how about stop throwing your kids under the bus and get your big man the ball, your best player, play inside out like you were doing earlier in the game, and you probably would have won.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The Early Line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Ferrall Coast to Coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game Time Decisions.
Luka. is actually far more dangerous from 3 on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not one, but 2 coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
This
Late
sort
Night.
of has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in here, coast to coast on the Sports Grid Network. Joe Ranieri in for Scotty Ferrall. Joe Lisi hanging out here in for Mike Carver. I certainly hope those guys are enjoying their day off here, JoJo. I am getting ready for baseball. Down in my neck of the woods here, a lot of pitchers, catchers seen around town. Position players are here, and that means baseball is almost upon us. No better grind, JoJo, for a 162-game season as a bettor than and handicapper than, to me, MLB. Guys that I know, they either hate it and don't want nothing to do with it, or they love it, but there's no in between. You either handicap and you're in for 162 games, or you don't go anywhere near the sport here, JoJo. Where are you on it?
I'm an over guy. I wait until late May, right after Labor Day, when we get the warmer weather on the East Coast. And I always tell all the guys, which balls are they using? Are they using the hard shell with the styrofoam middles, or are they using the ones with the cork? That's what I wait for. Give me middle June, where every over is coming in Monday through Wednesday. That's how I play. I will say, though, as well as anybody, the books are always at a disadvantage when it comes to baseball because of the trends, right?
Yep.
So many games.
Yep.
This is where, if you do follow it religiously, you can catch a hot team and catch those streaks where, you just go on a heater for 10 to 12 games and the books can get slaughtered in terms of that type of situation. So I understand why gamblers and bettors, play baseball, but you have to be dialed in each and every day. I play it more just for fun when I'm on the radio side.
And that's good. And that, there's nothing wrong with that either, because you're 100% right. You can't disappear from baseball for 2 weeks and then pick up from where you left off, because between those 2 weeks, you've got bullpens that blew up. This guy got hurt. We got this guy. So much can happen, which is why it's so important to keep your finger on the pulse there, including this time of year, because a lot is going on now that spring training is upon us. Games are getting ready to go. And let's face it, if you're a Yankee fan, the last thing you wanted to hear, JoJo, was Aaron Judge already putting in the mind of fans his toe issue. You got to check this out. I mean, this is the last thing I want to hear as a Yankee fan is what Aaron Judge has to say here.
Yeah, it's just going to be, I think, a constant maintenance, I think, the rest of my career. It's just something, anything with injuries like that, you just got to stay on top of it so it doesn't flare up again or something doesn't happen again. So we're feeling good right now. We're out there, we're moving, we're grooving. So we're going to try to keep it that way.
Oh,
I'd like to take my toe and stick it right up. Are you out of your mind, Aaron Judge? We haven't even played a game yet, and already you're telling fans, it's going to have to be something. It's a toe, Joe. It's not like it's a toe. What are we doing here, Aaron Judge?
I don't know, but I heard maintenance, which means to me that it's a lingering issue. And we talked about it yesterday. When you have Juan Soto and Aaron Judge in terms of MVP, number 1 and number 2, being a part of the tri-state area, that's never a good sign to start the year. It's almost like the Aaron Rodgers MVP Super Bowl odds to start the year for the New York Jets. How did that work out, right? The same thing with the New York Yankees. They haven't caught lightning in a bottle for about 14 years, and now everybody's trying to buy in because Juan Soto's there. But guess what? You need number 99 to stay healthy as well, and already he's got some issues, it seems like.
Well, he's at least paving the way for us to build in an excuse there. But he did also say, I'll give him credit, he did also say that he thinks the Yankees have another big move coming before the season starts, which, of course, let's hope it's Blake Snell. Let's hope it's an arm he's talking about, as for some reason Snell, well, Scott Boras is the reason why, but, Snell and I believe Montgomery, who was already a Yankee. There's still a couple of interesting names that are available here. I still think the Yankees, if they can remain healthy, are going to be, they're the Yankees. They are still going to have one of the better bullpens if Judge and his toe don't get hurt. Does he take down the home run this year? Is he a guy that we can count on getting back to what he did a couple of years ago to earn himself that contract? Do you think he is the guy that should be the favorite for the home run leader?
Well, he should be, right? Top 2 or 3. You're right there with Olsen and Schwarber. But I'll take a shot at Schwarber because I feel like Schwarber, at plus 750, he's a guy that always gets hot from the summer on. If he could start fast, maybe he could just continue that from the start of the year to the end. I like him at plus 750. So I take a shot in terms of Schwarber. He comes on, and again, he has the tendency to stay healthy. He's a big guy. I'll take my shot at him at plus 750 early on.
So it's interesting. Take a look at the American League East odds here. And yes, the Yankees are the favorite, followed by the Orioles. And you'll notice at the bottom there, the Red Sox at plus 1,300. And if you're wondering why, don't look any further than Rafael Devers, who apparently is not really thrilled with what the Red Sox have done this offseason. Here's what he had to say about all the help that they might be getting this year.
Sabemos que el año pasado necesitaban muchas cosas, este año también, todos los equipos necesitan algo, pero si la organización ve lo que nos hace falta y no lo buscan, yo voy a tratar de dar el 100% de mí, cada vez que me ponga en el terreno, lo que haga la oficina es parte de ello.
Yeah, I know what we needed last year. I know what we needed this year. A lot of teams need a lot of players, a lot of additions. I can't control what they do. I just can control what I do, just to go out there each day to give my 100% and try to be the best version of myself and trying to help my team win.
Pero ellos tienen que hacer un ajuste este año porque no nos puede pasar todo el año la misma cosa, sino todo el mundo juega esto para ganar. Y estamos en buena posición. Ellos nos tienen que ayudar a nosotros también los peloteros.
But they need to make an adjustment to help us players to be in a better position to win. Everybody in this organization wants to win, and we as a player want to win, and I think they need to make an adjustment to help us with.
No estoy diciendo de que el equipo no esté bien, pero ellos también tienen que tomar en conciencia lo que nos hace falta.
I'm not saying that the team is not okay right now, but they need to be conscious of what are the weaknesses right now.
That's what he's saying.
Right? You know what it was? If he just would have stopped after that first thought, we probably would have been all right. But then he kept talking and followed it up with, this team blows, and they're not getting me any help, and I can't believe I signed a contract to stay here. I mean, Joe, when you think about it, listen, he is no doubt. He's a power hitter. He is certainly a great piece to be able to build around. But their win total 79.5, JoJo. Bellows, their best pitcher, Giolito. Like, how are we getting to 80 wins if we're the Red Sox here?
I don't know. I don't think they get there, Joe. They have definitely regressed over the last 4 or 5 seasons. And the fact, it's amazing. You would never think the Red Sox, right? They used to own the New York Yankees, and now at least the Yankees are getting back to spending money. What are the Red Sox doing right now? I don't understand. Yep. Again, that's an 80 and 82 mark. at 79.5, right? If they get to 80, they're still under 2 games, 500. I would sell them. Maybe they get a hot start to start the year, but I'll just say this. The one team in the East, and I'm always in on the Tampa Bay Rays, they're 7-1, but I like to bet them in regards to just over-exceeding expectations. Yeah, I have to buy into Toronto. I know everybody's buying into Baltimore, but Toronto at plus 475, if Vlad Guerrero is going to do it, it's going to be this year, no?
Yeah, I am with you 100% there. I don't know who's going to be worse, though, the Red Sox or the Mets. The Mets are already saying Kodai Senga is going under, is having testing right now, has arm fatigue. We haven't even played a game, Joe, and Senga's already got arm fatigue. Like, what?
I've seen this early 80s. Before it was Strawberry and Lenny Dykstra and Backman, the Mets absolutely sucked with John Stearns. This has got basically 50 or 60 wins at the most written all over it this year.
Yeah. No, at the most is going to be the good thing. This is going to be a rough, I think, couple of years here. For the New York Mets here. Don't forget, we are having a 2-day Seoul, Korea to start the season with the Dodgers and the Padres, the 20th and 21st of next month, which will really kick off the Major League Baseball season. And what a shame to have to go to Yamamoto and Tyler Glasnow as your first 2 starting pitchers if you're the Dodgers. Listen, I'm not a big believer in buying yourself championships. I think baseball's the great equalizer. How many championships do you have to win, Joe, to justify the $17 trillion you spent to get all these guys?
And they still have money under the salary cap somehow. How is that possible, right? Who's the accountant for the LA Dodgers, right?
Nope.
The loopholes, right? We'll give you a happy deal, but don't worry. After eating Perkins for 5 years, we're going to give you $480 in a trust fund. Don't worry about it.
Exactly.
No
You're good. Yeah. I'll gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today. Like, give me a damn break here. But it'll be interesting to see it unfold here. Quick in college football, too, we heard Kalen DeBoer has hired Nick Sheridan, I believe, as the OC. And I believe Jamarcus Shepard, also the co-OC. Tough spot for DeBoer there, who took the job. Everyone gets jobs in the NFL, but Sheridan now the OC with Kellen DeBoer there at Alabama. Still think going to be a damn good team.
Good team. 9.5, though, is the win total, right? And they still have to play some very difficult. They go on the road to Tennessee. They play LSU on the road. Not going to be easy. You know, I would say first year growing pains. I take a shot at the under at plus money, though.
Yeah, there's no doubt. The guy has won everywhere he's gone, JoJo. I mean, there's really Kalen DeBoer, whether it be, out at Fresno or here in Washington. We're going to get a really good idea if he's as good as we think he is in the SEC. We're going to learn, I think, quick. 9.5?
Yeah.
Oh.
And keep in mind, he can still win, Joe, right? 9-3 is great everywhere in the country. At Alabama, except Alabama. They'll run you out after 1 year. What are you kidding?
Yeah. 9.5 gets you nothing but rumors. Hey, man, did you see that? Like, we're looking to move on here. We're trying to see if we can get Dabo to leave Clemson. Unbelievable. We'll close it out here next, Coast to Coast on the Grid. Joe Ranieri. Joe.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Like the Minnesota Wild were down by 2 goals today. They were down by 3 goals, actually, today at one point. And they came back and won. Like teams like, the Edmonton Oilers and the Coyote game went back and forth. The NHL really, you could argue, really is the best sport for in-game betting, where you can pull the trigger on both teams.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Johnny's a 19-point lead late in the opening half, only to squander that lead. Hall ball under Shaheen Holloway coming all the way back.
All these guards start jacking up shots, and then Chiorio doesn't get the ball. Hey, Rick, how about stop throwing your kids under the bus and get your big man the ball, your best player, play inside out like you were doing earlier in the game, and you probably would have won.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The Early Line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Ferrall coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from 3 on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not 1, but 2 coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage Late
This sort of
Night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in as we look to close out this edition of Coast to Coast on the Sports Grid Network. Want to thank Scotty Ferrall and, of course, Mike Carver for having us step in here. Joe Ranieri alongside Joe Lisi. Great games tonight in college hoops, JoJo. So on our way out of here, let's come up with a best bet or so here tonight. Which one of these games do you like more than the rest?
I have 3. I have one over. It's the over Alabama and Florida. I took it. I got a bad number, 175.5. I'm on Miami plus the 5.5. And I took a shot on the under St. John's, Georgetown, under the 151.5 last night. So 1 over, 1 under, and I'm on the Hurricanes tonight.
Ooh, not a bad way to look there. I also think that Illinois is going to be a pretty good bet here tonight to handle business against Penn State, who just dismissed their best player a couple of days ago. So I think it's just too much to overcome, too much talent for this Illinois team. I think they're going to get it done. And I think points are coming tonight with Belmont and Drake. That's right. Get ready for that.
Belmont and Drake over. If you throw out a Belmont and Drake, I'll play it. There you go.
That's it. Done.
Belmont and the Drake. I'm in.
That's
all right.
it. Drake is not stopping Belmont. They will shoot lights out from the outside here tonight. And in order, I think Drake wins, but I think they're going to have to score some points to get it done. So I'll take the over in that one here tonight. And the pit will be the location of a murder tonight. It will involve New Mexico running all over Colorado State in New Mexico, known as the pit. That is one of the best home court advantages there is in college basketball here tonight. That'll be your late night degenerate special for those that are trying to make all the money back because, basically you bet LaSalle instead of St. Bonaventure. Joe Lisi, pleasure, my man. Always a pleasure to see you with you guys. Enjoy the rest of your night. We'll talk to you again soon.